$94 million. Hell yeah, I'm making a spoiler video. Hey everyone, David here. Now I know this video is going up a little earlier than usual. I usually wait about maybe a week after the movie came out before doing a spoiler discussion. But we do got the Ninja Turtles coming up during that particular weekend. So I'm pushing the spoiler discussion for Guardians of the Galaxy a little earlier. So let's go ahead and get started. Like I've stated, this is a spoiler heavy video. So do not watch it if you have not seen Guardians of the Galaxy. Go see the movie. I definitely recommend it. And if you are not convinced yet, then feel free to check out my spoiler-free review of the movie. Either here or in my channel. I'll put an annotation somewhere maybe. I don't know. But anyways, let's get started. So going down the line of what I deem to be worthy to talk about in a spoiler video, the first thing would probably be Peter's father and how that came about and how that ties in with the opening scene at the beginning that's meant to be like this movie's version of the first 10 minutes of Up. His mom dies from what we believe to be cancer because she's bald, she practically has no hair on her head, so we're led to believe that she has cancer. She's dying from cancer. She's very skinny and all that. And this is where Peter kind of goes, this is where the seed of Peter's development as a character throughout the movie gets planted. And from there he gets picked up from a spaceship, and you guys know how I feel about that. And I will talk about that in some better detail now that I'm doing a spoiler video. But I am a little curious with the revelation of Peter's father being not of Earth at the end of this movie and him being only half human from his mother's side. Is there a possibility that maybe it was because of Peter's father that maybe she was sick? I mean, this sounds a little weird, a little taboo, so to speak, but maybe there was something there happening that didn't really mix chemically, and because of that she got sick and she got some form of cancer, like radiation poisoning or something, and that's how she ended up dying. But Peter Quill was kind of the byproduct of that. And sure, this is a plot device that is used so that there's an explanation behind his ability to hold the Infinity Stone for as long as he could, like Gamora explained. But it is a little interesting to ponder the possibility that maybe that's why not only did Peter's mother die, but also his father was nowhere in sight in that hospital. I mean, what happened to him? I would really like to see that area of Quill's backstory be further explained should there... Well, actually, there is going to be a Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in 2017. And that's definitely one of the things that I would love to see in the sequel. Next up, what I perceive to be the biggest surprise of the movie. Something that I wasn't expecting, and there it was. Thanos, the big man himself, appears in this movie. His first appearance since 2012's The Avengers, where we only got a mere glimpse of him. But here, he is voiced and performed by none other than Josh Brolin. And at first I wasn't sure if it was him. He kind of resembled Josh Brolin, mainly in the eyes and his voice, even though it was definitely altered so that it sounded very, like booming and very heavy and melodramatic. I don't know, I paid close attention to his voice, and I heard Josh Brolin's voice in there, even though, like I said, it was modified and changed to be very deep and low. And I was going back and forth. Was that Josh Brolin? Was that him in action as Thanos, as we're going to see him in future Marvel movies should the Avengers and or Guardians of the Galaxy are going to be going up against him? And I recently saw an article on IGN saying that yes, that was indeed Josh Brolin playing Thanos, and Marvel went ahead and officially released a screenshot of him from this movie. And his presence was definitely felt. It was there where Ronan just seemed like more of a pawn than anything else. Like, rather than the main baddie of this movie, he felt like just very minuscule in the presence of Thanos, who was like huge, and the effects on him look nice. And I definitely cannot wait to see Thanos in action, because here, the only tiny underwhelming thing about seeing Thanos is that he's literally just sitting in the chair, like he usually is, in his throne. What he does in terms of combat, in terms of powers, and what he can do, I'm definitely looking forward to see in the future. Now, in my review, I stated that one of my nitpicks was that Peter Quill coming into outer space was a little bit convenient. At the beginning, he goes out into the yard of the hospital because his mother just died, and man, that was harsh. And out of the blue comes this giant ship, beams him up, roll Marvel logo. And I'm like, okay, so that's it? I thought that time and space was going to play a part here where, I don't know, like, I just thought that it was going to be a little bit more intricate than that, than just a ship literally coming out of nowhere. And somebody posted a comment on my original review saying that there's actually a line that kind of explains that towards the end. And I believe it's during the scene where Yondu is beating him up and confronting him about how, like, hey, and I remember there was a line where he said, when I picked you up, and I can't remember the rest of it, but he did say something like that. But even then, it doesn't explain why it was such a coincidence. And maybe there is another line where he briefly mentions it and I missed it, and maybe with a second viewing I'll be able to catch it, but for right now I simply just do not know. Because call me naive, but like I stated before, I do not read the comics. Hell, I didn't even know who the Guardians of the Galaxy were before they announced they were making this movie. But I believed that this movie was actually going to take place in the far future after humankind has developed interstellar travel. Interstellar. And they were able to travel to all these different galaxies, and therefore humans will find themselves in these various worlds and planets and whatnot. And that kind of that would have explained why Star-Lord has that line in the trailer where he says, I come from Earth, a planet of outlaws. And I'm like, okay, this might take place in the future. But it turns out that that opening prologue with him as a kid took place in 1988. And then after we cut back from the logo and now we're in present time, it says right there, 26 years later. Add that up and it's 2014. Which means that two things. One, we had that convenient way of Quill getting into outer space as a kid. But this also makes the Guardians of the Galaxy being tied with the Avengers a little easier to do, rather than to overcomplicate things with time travel, because that's just gonna lose an awful lot of people. And the only other thing that I can talk about before getting to the end credit scene is the effects of that final climactic battle, and what does it mean for the future of the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise by itself, with the Avengers withstanding. Basically, in the end, we had Nebula escaping, and chances are she's going to head right to her daddy to complain, Thanos, and they're going to team up to find a way to get back that Infinity Stone so that he can therefore complete the gauntlet. And definitely looking forward to that. But also, Groot sacrificing himself to save the team. First of all, like I've stated in my original review, it's like Vin Diesel can only play these parts where his character has to die in order to deliver a punch to the gut emotionally. And that was very heartfelt, especially when Rocket's like, you're gonna die, and I'm like, okay, anyways. But what I really loved was that we know that he's a plant, so there's gotta be a way to bring him back. They can't just do away with Groot just like that. And what I loved is that any other movie with any other director would have filmed it in a way where they're like, oh, guess who's back? Guess who's not dead? And I love that the movie did not do that. They just showed a brief shot of Rocket holding a pot with a branch from Groot in it with soil, and that alone tells you, yeah, he's going to grow him back. And by the end of this movie, you can already see the little baby Groot coming from the stem. And sure, you can nitpick the speed of him growing, but hey, earlier in the movie, we saw his arms get chopped off by Gamora, and within, give or take, a few hours, he was able to grow them back. So I assume that in probably a day or two, Groot will be back to full-size adult Groot that we've seen throughout this movie. And so finally, that leaves us with the end credits scene, which I was kind of worried they weren't going to have, because I believe about a month before the movie was released, or at least within the month of July, I can't remember when exactly. I remember seeing an article also on IGN saying that at that time it was allegedly reported that Guardians did not have a scene at the end of the credits at all, at least not yet, they put in parentheses. And that had me a little bit worried, like, wow, are we actually going to get the first Marvel movie in forever to not have an end credits scene? And they went ahead and put one in there, but you can kind of tell that either they came up with it at the very end of the production, or they came out with it during the writing process and said, hey, this is going to be the end credit scene. But because we don't want it to be forced, in terms of tying it in with the Avengers, like I've stated in my review, we're gonna go ahead and put this little gag in there that's gonna have everyone go like, what? And at the same time look at it and go, out of all of the Marvel movies that they have released so far in Phase 2, Guardians of the Galaxy is the most appropriate to put this scene in here. And that is, of course, Benicio del Toro's collector being inside his shop that has been destroyed by that maid who wanted to free herself. And wow, that character was on screen for like, what, 5 minutes? And I really sympathized for her wanting to be freed from the collector's clutches, only to have killed herself trying to do so by grabbing the Infinity Stone. That was, I don't know, it's got to me for some reason. But his whole shop, and from what I hear, is also his home, got destroyed. And there to console him is that astronaut dog. I can't remember his name, but he's from the 1960s or 1970s missions that NASA sent up there in a spaceship, and the collector managed to nab him. That's kind of funny all on its own. But anyways, he's there looking at him and whatever, and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And I was actually expecting it to cut right there. I'm like, that's probably gonna be it. But then we hear a voice. You're gonna let him lick you like that? Gross. And then we cut over Howard the Duck. And when I first saw him, I'm like, a talking duck. Wait a minute. And sure enough, Howard the Duck. I'm like, oh my goodness, really? And that also brought back that Howard the Duck is a Marvel character, so they have the right to put him in there. And it did make us look like, wow, really, guys? And it did make me laugh. It was fun. It does, however, make us speculate. Are they actually going to make a Howard the Duck movie? Or are they going to have him be on the sidelines within the universe of Guardians of the Galaxy specifically? Me personally, stick with just Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, have him pop up here and there as a running gag or something like that. Don't give him his own movie. We've seen that. Remember? Even if the animation is better and they get some really great writers to give him some good dialogue, I still don't want a Howard the Duck movie by himself. Just have him be in the background in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, throwing in one-liners and stealing whatever scene that he is in. And I'm trusting that would be a very short amount of time, because he looks like that kind of character that if you put him in for just a small amount of time, he will then shine during that small amount of screen time that he has. And that's it for my spoiler discussion for Guardians of the Galaxy. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie, and of course feel free to say anything that you want, because this is a spoiler discussion video, so go nuts. And I'll see you guys next time when I talk about even more computer generated animals produced by Michael Bay.